Knowing you, I think it might be the opposite. How are you doing? I really like your outfit. It's a very warm, comfortable blue.
Yeah. Thank you. And Gabriel said I was doing San Marcos all day. I think that's their culture.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a miss. Don't want that Facebook post to come out. Usually you do pretty good, though, wearing cross country and gold.
Okay, we're going to get started with a question for our ASI President, Uriah Sanders. President Coley, feel free to weigh in if you wish, but this is directed toward Uriah. The question is, what is your favorite sorting algorithm and why?
President Coley, can you answer that one? No, I'm just kidding. Favorite sorting algorithm? My vice president's like, I don't know. I think that this question was probably selected because they know that I do programming and web development on my own time, but sorting algorithms actually aren't something that I've used as much as you might think. So I don't really think I have one. Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll get started with another question here for both of you. The question is, can we please push for better marketing of IT services? For example, all students can access their own copy of Microsoft Word through Office 365 and their campus account, but most students don't know that.
Let me just say that, in fact, the cabinet and I are just meeting around some of these broader institutional issues, and one of the elements of our work is communication. And so what we are focusing on is not only making sure that we have the resources, but communicating that we have the resources and how that gets out to individuals. And so we've talked about a strategic communications activity starting in the fall. We need to take a look at, you've seen the new website, we need to take a look at how do we get that information out. But we also understand that the standard ways of communicating are not sufficient. It's not sufficient to have it on the website. It's not sufficient to send an email. It's not sufficient to post it around the campus, but it's all that plus. And I think what we're really looking at is how to use social media more effectively, how to make sure that we communicate with individuals. And a lot of this also becomes by word of mouth. So thank you for acknowledging those things. This is the kind of information that we want to always hear from you, because we are taking a continuous improvement approach. This works, but it can always be better. And so don't hesitate to continue to inform us. I'm going to ask John if there's anything that he would like to say. John McGuthrie, our CIO.
Hello. No, I think that was fantastic. Of all the questions I could be asked, I suppose that's probably one of the more exciting ones to ask, which is how do we share more information about some of the good things that we do? As the president said, sending emails aren't always everyone doesn't always read our emails, and sometimes the reason why students don't read the emails is because we send a lot of emails. So some of the things perhaps that we could do is kind of reduce some of the emails that we send out and send more strategic communications, again, in Facebook, use email sometimes, every now and then use text messaging, and just find creative ways to get the message about the good things that we do across the entire campus, and share that with everyone.
Let me just, I want to add one other thing, is that part of our strategic conversations focused on what do students need to know when, because we have so much information to share with you, and oftentimes we overwhelm individuals with the communication, but you don't need all the communication at one time. And so what we're looking at is how do we, as an institution, say, for example, when you first come to Cal Poly Pomona, what information do you need? What's essential for your success? At the end of the first year, what information should you have had? When do you need it? And how do we make sure, what's the best way to communicate that to you? So we're trying to, because we have varying offices, there's a lot of good activity and work that's associated with each of these offices. So we've got to figure out how to sequence and integrate the message in the context of you're using the information. When will you use it, and how do we make sure that it is communicated in a mode in which it's accessible and on a timely, as-needed basis? And so that's a lot of the work that we want to have emerge out of our strategic process. Ryan, you want to add?
Yeah, I think the president's answer to that was quite thorough. I think with the strategic planning process, that's a really good thing for us to know that students are really looking for. I know with the Microsoft Office opportunities in particular, that's something that was really useful to me. And I don't think I knew about that directly when I came into college. It was something I kind of figured out on my own. And sometimes students still ask, and they're like, well, how do I get Microsoft Word? I'm like, there's a free version. And they're like, wow, it changes their lives. So I think we could definitely do a better job of communicating that. And thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay, the next question. What effort is the school making for providing healthier and more sustainable food options on campus?
Paul is not here. Paul Story, our head of foundation, is not here this afternoon, but in fact, I was sent an email because there was the expectation that this question was going to be asked. And what certainly has been communicated, and again, it's an ongoing process, both in terms of in the dining halls, but also in other food establishments, making sure that there are healthy choices. One of the things that I'm also very impressed with, I've had a chance to, for example, visit our food and nutrition program in the College of Ag. And I think that they have an opportunity to also engage with us in terms of communicating and making sure that we are aware of what are the choices, what are some of the better choices that we should be aware of. But I certainly appreciate the fact that the foundation and the dining establishments constantly trying to make sure that they hear from students and from other users to provide options, not just one thing only, but options, because some people choose to partake in something different than others. And so this is certainly going to be an ongoing effort on our part. And with the new dining facility that is on track, I think, is it 2019? I don't remember when it's supposed to open. In conjunction with the new residential housing, we certainly expect to have expanded options for students. But in the meantime, I've been over to Los Alisos, and I see clearly that there are some options, some healthy options. I don't always choose them, but I know that if I'm feeling compelled, I know that they are there. Same thing in the Bronco Student Center, but that's something we'll continue to monitor and emphasize. Is there anyone here from Foundation? Who are we pointing to? Oh, yes. You want to say anything about that?
Thank you, Dr. Coley. Aaron Nielsen with Foundation. I'm the Director of Dining Services, your director. Last fall, we as we do every year, we put out a survey to our students, faculty, and staff, and we received the results of that survey in February. A couple of the elements were related to healthy items, and there was a second survey, some of you may remember, related to our dining master plan that we do every 5 years. The interesting thing on this survey showed that when you compare foundation dining services to other locations, meaning the 540 other participating universities, we exceed every other university as a whole in terms of healthy options and healthy variety. That said, that doesn't mean we're going to rest on our laurels, because the Envision Master Plan, our Dining Master Plan survey asked a specific question. What is the one thing you can do to improve your dining services? Guess what number one was? Healthy items, healthy options, just as this same question came up at the last Pizza with the Prez. Now, with all that said, we did discover, and after the last Pizza with the Prez, and after we got this data back, we started a couple of initiatives. You might see Eat Well at CPP. You'll see that in all of our dining locations. That will show you the healthy options we have available for you at each location. There's a number of other initiatives that we're working on. I don't want to talk about it too much right now, but that's where we are with dining, and thank you for the question.
And as Aaron said, this was a question at the last Pizza with the Presidents, and I did promise that we'd put it more on ASI's priority list. And so we do have the Student Health Advisory Committee that's been looking at building a recommendation for the university as well, analyzing the food options and speaking to students about what they really want to see, so that we could hopefully provide a recommendation and kind of just help with some of those improvements that are going on, especially as President Coley said, with the opening of the new dining hall in the future. And so definitely appreciative of all the work that the foundation's been doing to improve their their initiative of outreach about what services they do provide, and we're hoping we can also help them think of more options as well.
Presidents Coley and Sanders, the next question is about the Veterans Resource Center. What are your plans to continue or increase support for the Veterans Resource Center, given the fact that the veteran community is exponentially growing?
Let me just say that, first of all, I am very impressed with our Veterans Resource Center. It has personal meaning for me, given my husband was 20-year Marine Corps veteran. And in fact, I don't know if Elke is out here or not. Is Elke here? Where is she? Oh, there she is.
Hi.
Hey. We, in fact, are a model veteran center for not only the CSU, but the UC. And that doesn't happen by chance. And I also want to take a moment, is Kathy out here, Kathy Street? I also want to take a moment to acknowledge Kathy along with Elke, because it is their consistent commitment to determining and ascertaining what the veterans need in order to be better integrated into the life of the university. Given that a lot of the basis for that support has been external. And so we need to continue to figure out how to now integrate the resources with a number of areas, including the Veterans Center. We've gotten grants as a result of Elke submitting proposals. We've gotten donations from companies because of the work that we have done. But we also have responsibility as an institution to look at resources to make sure that they meet the needs of this particular student population. We also know that as we're beginning to look across the university around establishing and expanding and building upon our centers, again, that the Veterans Center is a real model for how do you connect with, provide timely information, and make sure that there's a support system through their time here. And I know that we're trying to replicate that in other areas, but in general, all of those requests come forward to the cabinet as we begin to look at the budget allocation process. So we stand committed to the Veterans Resource Center and want to continue to figure out how to make sure that it is supported. Elke, was there anything that you wanted? I saw you with a mic. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I got an update from the Chancellor's Office. We did submit a request. Our Veteran Directors for Veterans Affairs at the Chancellor's Office submitted a request to the Chancellor's Office in terms of a budget for all 23 campuses. So it's being reviewed. Hopefully it's good news.
Okay, the next question involves the library. Can we get another student exit in the library? In case of an emergency, everyone will be headed toward the stairs.
Question?
Certainly right. Can we get another student exit in the library? In case of an emergency, everyone will be headed toward the stairs.
We, Ray Wang, Dean of the Library, we have several exits to to direct traffic outside of the library. I think at least 4. I don't know whether this question asks about adding more or not. I probably have to refer this to, our friend in facilities.
Thank you, Dean. Walter Marquez, Facilities Planning and Management. It's a good question, but please know that when we do build our buildings, they go through fire marshal approval. So we are meeting code when the buildings are getting built. The buildings, the new portion of the library, which created the new entrance, which you may know it as the only entrance. For those of us that have been here on campus for many years, know it as a newer entrance. It was built with the width to address the exiting off the second floor, and there are multiple emergency exits throughout the library. One thing, I think what we can do is actually walk the library and identify, maybe we're not identifying them clearly enough, maybe it's not clear enough to see where are those multiple exits, and that may be something we need to explore.
Thanks, Walter.
Okay, the next question for the presidents. What would you do as president to protect undocumented students?
What would you do as president? Is it, or what are we doing as president?
It was what would you do, but what are you doing?
Oh, okay. Sorry, at first I was thinking, did it mean if we were president of the United States? And then I thought, oh wait, I'm actually not really ready to answer that. But for the undocumented community here at Cal Poly Pomona, that has been one of our primary issues on campus this year. We've been working really hard with the university to establish a Dream Center, which will be opening next year primarily, but I believe it will be opening this year, May 25th. So that was a big collaboration with a lot of the student organizations on campus and the university and ASI, and we really thought it was important, especially in the context of recent events. Another thing that we've been doing is a lot of federal advocacy. So we went up on Heal Day, which was this past, was that last month in March, where we advocated we advocated to members of Congress about the importance of DACA, and also we're receiving information about what's going on with that at the federal level so that we could relay it back to our students out here. We also have another trip planned in June for ASI where we're going to be going to Washington, D.C. again and speaking to more members about the importance of DACA and seeing what other ways we could support our community here on campus. So we're very committed to that, and I hope that you can see that from what we've done this year, but always open to taking more suggestions on what we can do better and what we're missing.
Before I address that specific question, one of the things I want to do, and it's reminding me, I want to take a moment and really acknowledge the president, the vice president, Gabriel, and Andrea. I don't know if she's out here because unfortunately, the 23 campuses every year go to DC and they talk with representatives about these issues that are of great import to California and the CSU system. And unfortunately, I got sick, and I just, with everything I had, I wanted to go, but I couldn't. And so I asked the three of them to go and represent Cal Poly Pomona. And I have gotten only outstanding reports from the legislators that they engaged with, as well as from the chancellor in terms of their connecting and communicating the voice of students. And so I just wanted to take a moment to thank them, because I know that the Dreamers was certainly one of the topics that we wanted to address. Now, in terms of the question that you've asked, and it's on multiple levels, the first thing I think as president, I need to let Dreamers as well as all individuals know that they belong here at Cal Poly Pomona. I need to communicate that we support you, that we want to do everything that we can within our power to give you the knowledge, the tools, and the support for you to continue to achieve and meet the goals that you've established for yourself, because we know how for all of us, your educational attainment as well as the attainment for all students not only benefits you individually, but it benefits the families, it benefits the community, and it benefits society. And so it starts at the personal level. What message, what communication have you received? And that is something that I know all of the cabinet members have been very focused on. Over the last 6 weeks or so, the provost and I met with some representatives of the Dreamer population, I think along with our Vice President of Student Affairs, Leah Jarnigan, as well as director of the Dream Center. And what we wanted to do was to be able to answer questions and to also hear the anxiety, hear the uncertainty about what is happening. We don't have a crystal ball, but we do know that whatever we can do in terms of meeting your needs, facilitating your graduation is something that we want to do. The other thing is that we need to make sure that you have the information at hand that is needed. So we have worked with immigration offices. I know that the Vice President of Student Affairs is connecting with other CSUs, and through a number of initiatives, we are looking at making referrals to legal sources, because what oftentimes happens is an individual is trying to get information, another individual, another information, but what we want to make sure is that you have totality of information, and so bringing you together helps to share in making sure that you can make the best decisions possible. We also need to make sure that the faculty and the staff understand the magnitude of this issue, but also are there to support you, because you don't interact with the president on a frequent basis, but wherever you go, you need to know that there is someone there who can be supportive, who is seeing the opportunities for you to achieve the educational goals that you have set for yourself. So yes, there may be particular strategies for circumstances of particular groups, but we want Cal Poly Pomona to be and is an accepting and supportive environment to help you achieve the success which we know that you're capable of.
Okay, the next question involves transportation. Can we have a CPP student bus pass that would work for the entire quarter with unlimited rides? It's been difficult to commute to school with at least a 2-hour ride daily, and Foothill 480 only runs once an hour.
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat the last part of that question again, please?
Certainly. It's more of a statement, the question about unlimited bus pass, but then there's a statement that says, it's been difficult to commute to school with at least a 2-hour ride daily, and Foothill 480, which is, I assume, bus line, only runs once an hour.
Okay. I can actually relate to this question a lot because my first 2 years of college, I took the bus as well, and I had a 2.5-hour ride, and it can be expensive. I believe it's about $40 or $33, I think, if you get a pass here from Foothill Transit. So we do have a discounted pass option in the games room if you weren't aware of that. I also had to take a second bus system, so I had to pay about $80 a month for almost a 3-hour ride to get to and from campus one way. So I definitely see the importance of that. And one thing that we've been doing this year is trying to find options as far as establishing a partnership with Foothill Transit. And kind of the way to make sure that those conversations continue in the long term is by creating, I think in previous Pizza with the Presidents, I announced the creation of the Transportation Advisory Committee, which is an ad hoc ASI committee that was formed this year in collaboration with the university and the Academic Senate, advising the university on what's best for the entire campus community when it comes to transportation options. One of the things that the committee has been working on this year is, thank you, is establishing a permanent university-wide committee so that those conversations can happen beyond this year. And so we're hoping with that, it's kind of, there's a lot of things that go into building a partnership, but with that committee being formed permanently, I really think that there's a lot of opportunities for increasing those options. In the meantime, the committee has been doing a lot of great work in both forming a white paper on transportation options and investigating other partnerships that we could take advantage of, such as Zipcar has been on the recent agenda and so forth. Enhancing our Bronco shuttle frequency. So it's looking at a lot of different things, and I'm hoping we can see a lot of improvements in the near future. But definitely something that at least I'm definitely in support of, and I know that the university is moving towards trying to, greater serve those students who use public transportation.
The only thing I would add is that I've also been in communication with the Mount SAC president because there are some things that are occurring at Mount SAC that I think can foster a partnership with Cal Poly Pomona. And we do know that it's a challenge not only getting to the campus, but once you're here, navigating the campus. I'm very aware, for example, that many of the Mount SAC faculty, staff, and students who are going 10 east will use the Kellogg Drive exit, and so the University Drive. So this is a throughfare for the Mount SAC, for many of the Mount SAC employees, and we want to work with them to see if there are things that we can do, because as we start the construction here, we already have the CLA replacement building, but we'll be getting started with the residence houses. We're going to get started with the dining commons, and it's really going to be disruptive, and we've got to try to find some alternative ways to move people on and off campus. And so it is a work in progress, but we do hear the needs and the concerns, and we need to continue to work collectively across all of the groups to try to get, and quite frankly, we've got some excellent knowledge here among our faculty as well as our staff to try to address this problem. We are launching the campus master plan, and part of that is going to be related to the pathways, the people movement, as it were. And so all of this has to be factored into a plan that makes sense for the faculty, the staff, the students, and the university at large.
The next question involves financial aid. How is the Financial Aid Office improving its communication methods, specifically phone lines? It often takes 30 minutes to get someone on the phone, but some of us cannot spend that long waiting when we only have one or two questions.
Let me just say that that in some of our areas, the demand has grown, but we've not been able, for whatever the reason, to have a concomitant increase in staffing. That being said, we're really looking at how to integrate technology into fundamental operations at this campus. Your one or two questions probably could be easily answered looking at some screen. Now, there are always those situations which have another dimension that you need to have some face-to-face engagement. But what we want to begin to do is to make available to students the information they need, make clear that there is communication about the implication of that information and what the action is related to that information. Right now, we still have a process where fundamentally you need to come in or you need to call. And we recognize that as we grow, that is not going to continue to be an efficient model. What we want to be able to do is to have visits to the offices as exceptions, not the rule. Now, that's going to take us a while to get there. It's also going to require working with our respective offices and making sure that we capture the information that is needed. But just think about how you engage when you're not at the university. I don't know when I've talked to someone, when I have a question about an issue, a bill, or whatever, I go online. And they'll have a drop-down menu. Do you want this or do you want that? Now, we all do that outside the university. So the question is, why don't we do that inside the university? And that's where we are moving as we look at the implications for staffing, for technology. And it really requires then helping students to navigate the university in a much more friendly manner. Now, when you go to the staff, they're certainly there to help you, and they're friendly, and they want to respond to your questions. But given, again, the growth that we have, and some of the questions are the same questions that individuals, that multiple students will have. And so can we begin to put that together in a way that you have your own personalized plan that then you're able to move through. But I know that that has been an ongoing issue, and the staff try to respond as quickly as they can. I'm going to ask John, you had yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Novell. I'm the Associate Director in the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarship. And thank you for that, Dr. Coley. Just to provide a few details of some of the technology enhancements that are actually available right now to help with just what Dr. Coley was talking about. Currently, as a student, when you log into the My CPP portal, there's a brand new feature that allows you to view different statuses for different offices around the campus. And one of them that we're very pleased that is available right now is the My financial aid status. And it allows you to see where you are in the process. Do you owe documents? Is your award ready right now and perhaps you missed the email? Do you owe any other sort of situation, or do you need to come and visit us? So we are going to be using that, and it's available right now if you log into mycpp.edu with your Bronco ID and password. But it'll allow you to figure out, okay, do I have an exceptional situation, or is there something that is needed from me? In most cases, when students have questions about financial aid, they owe some documentation. And this portal will allow students to be able to find out where they stand in the process and what they need to do. Also, another enhancement that we have made is just our communications. We've tried to target our communications much more effectively to students to let them know what it is they need to know to respond to some of the common questions that the data has shown us that students are giving to us. And if we have a student, for instance, who owes some documents and we haven't heard from you, we'll reach out in the form of an email to you every 30 days until you respond. So we try to get the attention of students who perhaps are busy and haven't checked their email, or maybe haven't logged into the portal for quite some time. That helps out as well. We have also, in addition to our front counters, the One Stop is available. That is also in the CLA building on the second floor. And that has helped alleviate some of our traffic and has given us some additional staffing resources to help with the volume. Also on our website, we've tried to enhance a lot of our information. We deal with federal and state regulations that can be quite confusing, and with the political situation, things change all the time, and we know as students it's very difficult to keep up with those. So we try to put all of the information you need. We try to kind of use the inverted pyramid. The most important stuff we put towards the top, stuff that you'd be able to read really quickly, but if for those students who want more detail, they can drill down even more. Other resources on our website include Ask Billy, which is an automated system where you can ask a question and the very common answers will come up. So we are committed to providing not just additional staff, but just really a much smarter way of servicing students so that our front counters and our phone lines can be used truly for the exceptions, as Dr. Coley mentioned. Thank you.
Next question. Will there be plans for a larger transfer center in the future? Our population is over 40% transfer students, and I feel the current transfer resources aren't enough.
The cabinet is, we're looking at space in general, and we recognize that as we identify the front door to the campus, we want to make sure that students can have a single space to handle all of their needs. That they don't need to go here for that and someplace else for something else, but that we begin to bring all of that together. And as you said, the transfer rate is increasing. A lot of the students are, particularly with our local community colleges, they're taking the associate degree transfer program, and it's bringing students through that means. But I'm going to ask the Provost if she can just speak briefly to some of the thinking about how we begin to integrate the services that would be needed for transfers.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sylvia Alva. I serve as your Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. One of the resources that we have on this campus is the Poly Transfer Center. And recently, Vice President Jarnigan and I had the opportunity to meet with transfer students. And what we heard universally among this group of students was how much they valued the Poly Transfer Center. They were looking for a place where people understood that the academic and personal experience of a transfer student was different from the experience and the needs, the information needs of a freshman. So there are wonderful opportunities for us to build on nationally recognized models for how to engage students who are at different points in their academic career, and to think about what makes the Poly Transfer Center work and how do we make it a resource that's available to more students, as the president has alluded to, not just in terms of face-to-face engagement, but the way in which we prepare our students from the moment they get admitted to come onto the campus, register for their classes, and progress towards their degree, to be very intentional about the unique needs of transfer students that may not be the case for other subpopulations here at Cal Poly. Thank you.
Okay, the next question. What has the campus done to address food insecurity and displaced students?
Okay, quite a lot on this one, actually. This has been one of the primary initiatives of both the university and ASI this year. And there have been quite a lot of programs and initiatives that we're both starting this year and planning for in the future. One such thing that we're looking for doing, just something to look out for, is that this Thursday, actually, this week, the Senate, the ASI Senate, will be discussing a bill to authorize the creation of a food pantry inside of the Bronco Student Center. So that might be something to just stop by and look at, or speak on behalf of why you think that's important. Another thing that's going on is a mobile food pantry will be coming to campus. Was that in? If anyone has a specific date on that, but I believe by the end of this quarter. So a mobile food pantry is another one of those options, and we're also looking into getting information, more online information for our students, into creating a grant program that students can apply to receive funding for emergency situations, and a wellness program to help guide students through those emergency situations. So there's quite a few things on that list, and I also want to take the time to thank someone who on the university side has really spearheaded this initiative, which is now Dr. Sarah Gamez, who recently received her PhD, and I think she's about to tell you a little more specifics about some of the programs that we have planned.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My name is Sarah Gomez, and I've been chairing the Food and Housing Security Committee on campus over this last year with an amazing group of individuals who are committed to supporting our students holistically. We do have, in addition to some of the resources that we've been working with to bring to campus for students who are experiencing food insecurity or homelessness that Uriah mentioned, we currently have Calfresh, who is starting to come on campus. So for any students who may be eligible for Calfresh, they will be here next week, this week for Health Fest. So they will have a booth or a table available, and we're going to be working alongside with the Student Health Center to make sure that we do more outreach to students so that they can understand the eligibility requirements for Calfresh, but also to have a representative to help students sign up and receive those benefits. And if students are eligible and do receive the benefits, that's an additional $200 that can go towards food costs that students can receive. And there are also 2 locations on campus currently that students can utilize their EBT services, their Calfresh services. It's at the farm store across on the other side of campus, but also at the marketplace by the suites. So we are working also with Foundation Services to make sure that if there are any other options on campus where we can set up accessibility for Calfresh, that we would do that for students. And we're hoping that we'll be able to bring the mobile food pantry that Uriah mentioned to campus before the quarter ends. We are working to ensure that all the pieces are put in place to ensure both the state and the university and the organization's liability requirements and so forth, but we are looking to bring that that service to students. They will be bringing food available for up to 200 students for about a week's worth of food, and so we'll be providing more information once we solidify a date for that.
Let me just say that I also want to again thank, under the leadership of Uriah and his cabinet, but also Dr. Leah Jarnigan and the managers and staff with regards to this particular issue. This is a CSU-wide issue, and one of the things I want to make sure that we understand is that there's some CSUs that have been engaged in this activity for some time now. And that has been a benefit to us because what we are recognizing is that there are some issues, challenges, problems that they've run into that we need to make sure we can now respond, make sure that as we plan that we address those challenges and issues, because as mentioned, the liability around what is provided and who is and who receives and so forth, all of those issues are things that we need to look at. But fundamentally, we are committed in terms of working in partnership to make sure that students have access and information and the resources to fundamentally meet their needs. And so I don't know if Dr. Jonigan, is there anything that you want to add to that? So it is I'm very pleased with the outreach to organization that will be coming to the campus in order to also provide a broader range of foods than we would necessarily provide just doing it ourselves. And so that's another thing that we understand how best to serve the students and get the resources to them. So I really appreciate everyone's engagement and involvement around this important issue.
Okay, we have time for 2 or 3 more questions, but if your question is not answered during Pizza with the Presidents, it will be answered this coming week online, so your question will be answered. This question involves CAPS. The CAPS 8-week program is extremely helpful and is the reason I'm graduating. Yet the program is very impacted, denying some students help. Are there any plans to expand it?
Oh, okay. We're going to have the director, we're going to talk about that program, and to be able, let me just say that before you begin, that we are undertaking a planning process to really look at how do we, what's the current level of support, what's the demand, not just for this program, but for all programs, and then how do we begin to use our resources that we have both state and otherwise, but then also how do we begin to make sure that we connect with foundations, that there are other ways in which we support the experience here at Cal Poly Pomona. And so I'm very pleased to know that we have just some model programs that we are able to take out and seek external funding for. But yeah.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that students are finding our services beneficial. We are following a trend that is sadly happening across our CSUs of offering brief models of therapy with the goal of helping as many students access services as possible. Because if we allow, some students to see someone for the whole year, then a lot of students cannot come in. So we do not like to shorten session limits. We're always advocating to see if we can go up. Can we offer 10 sessions? Can we expand what we offer? But we've needed to do that because thankfully stigma and that fear of seeking help is being reduced, and we have a lot of students that are coming in and want to access services, many of those who are accessing therapy for the first time. So our goal in our department is to offer groups and workshops for those students that have finished their 8 sessions and they still want to learn skills on how to manage stress, on how to deal with anxiety, following the models of Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and other CSUs that are finding great success. So for students that would like to continue doing the work, I'd encourage them to consider groups and workshops. And additionally, I'm really happy to say that we are working with our Division of Student Affairs to hire 2 more counselors so that we can start the fall quarter with more availability so that we can consider going and probably increasing the number of sessions. I do not want to promise that because we need the staff to be here in order to support the students, but I'm really excited about the opportunity for growth. And for students who are not sure about our services, they could always walk in. 825, we have a counselor on call that can talk to students without an appointment. So thank you.
I'm going to ask the Vice President to also just say a little something about the health and wellness initiative that is being developed, and I think that this is certainly fits very well under that umbrella.
Thank you so much. So we are looking very intentionally within the Division of Student Affairs to really bring together a more holistic and focused expression of well-being. So rather than simply a treatment model, a reactive model, which I think we do a fairly decent job at, it's really more of how to best bring together multiple units and departments, programmatic initiatives, and talent that we have in the team to have a cohesive focus of well-being, which is multiple dimensions: emotional, spiritual, financial, physical, et cetera, et cetera. And so with that, we're doing some reorganization in student affairs and utilizing an existing position to have a restructure of leadership for the area. And we will soon be sharing with the campus the cluster of campus health and well-being, which will bring together, again, all of the programs that you've heard about, but as well as the basic needs initiatives. So the concept of food insecurity and homelessness, that will be a new area that we'll be building under the well-being cluster, as well as looking at our current outreach efforts and response from our polycares team, which is looking at intervening and supporting students who are having a hard time functioning within the campus community. So we believe this new focus is going to help us leverage our resources in a new way, as well as bring, I think, a more public vision around focusing on well-being for the entirety of the campus community.
And let me just say that while the initial focus certainly is to make sure that students are well served, as the Vice President just mentioned, we want to emphasize well-being for everyone, all of the employees. And so those are things that will gradually take hold, but I know that we all have the potential for improving our, reducing our stress and improving our overall outlook and well-being. So we're looking forward to some of those initiatives in the future.
We have just a couple minutes remaining, so this is the final question. Is there anything being done to ensure that there are enough courses and sections being offered for impacted programs? My planner is helpful, but not everyone remembers to use it, so the information may be inaccurate.
I know the Provost is going to respond to that question, but first of all, I just want to take a moment to commend our IT division as well as academic affairs in launching and getting this moving out to the students. And I think that there's always, as our continuous improvement methodology, that we want to hear and understand what can we do to make sure that we are ultimately achieving the goal, which is to get into the hands of the students what's needed, when would it best be provided, and whether or not, in fact, that information then gets to the colleges and to the departments, and then did the students actually follow up on that? So it is something that that provides a very comprehensive approach to serving students. But Provost Alva.
I want to just take a moment and encourage you to get the word out about the importance of asking your friends, fellow classmates to fill out an individual advising plan. It's very helpful not only for you in terms of tracking your progress towards degree, but it's incredibly important for us in terms of anticipating what courses students are looking for and ensuring that those classes are in the class schedule. We know that we cannot rely just on that tool, and so with great support from IT and from my leadership team in academic affairs, we have developed a course management dashboard that allows us to look historically at courses and begin to project where there is pent-up demand for particular courses and where there's some courses that tend to run low and there may be opportunities to consolidate sections or redeploy those resources into sections where student demand is. So I want the author of this particular letter, this particular question, to know that we are working at many levels to try to get this right. I tell the deans, I tell my leadership team, the class schedule is where we have the bulk of our resources in academic affairs, and so it's really important that we manage that resource responsibly and align it to meet the needs of students in terms of the degree objectives and helping them reach their goals. So thank you for that question, and know that we are working very hard as a division. And I also want to thank the deans and the associate deans who are instrumental in making this work actually come together. The other piece that I'm very excited about is that we're now also working on multi-term schedules so that we finish a term, we immediately go to the next one, we go to the next one. Why is that important? It's important because we want students to be able to see ahead and plan ahead. So the IAP is one way, but also giving you the information you need so that you can plan ahead, and we too can also anticipate where the future course needs are of students.
I just want to, I know this is the last Pizza with the President for this year, and I just want to take a moment, as I've done in the past, to acknowledge the ASI President, Uriah's energy, his unbounded vision, and his commitment to improving the experience for students has been respected and appreciated. And I also want to extend a thank you and congratulations to your cabinet for your work this year. I know that the ASI elections are underway, so we'll find out who'll be joining me up here in the fall. I want to thank the administrators, the management, the faculty, the staff for your continued commitment to this university. We have in very few weeks, this area will be transformed. It's always amazing to me the transformation that will take place as we have 8 commencements. And I want to take a moment to particularly thank the facilities unit, because they work tirelessly to make sure, along with Media Vision, I mean, there's so many people who are involved in the in putting on the commencement. Teresa in my office, the staff, the students that support, the volunteers, and so it just doesn't. It's easy for me because I just show up in my robe, but it is. I don't take for granted all of the work that goes behind that wonderful experience. And I've heard more and more times people talk about how we seem that this is like an Academy Awards production here at Cal Poly Pomona. So I want to say thank you, and again, I'll be seeing many of you very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.